Tonight, Obama fighting back, the former president calling out President Trump in a way that we have not seen before, slamming what he calls the, quote, bizarre and, quote, ridiculous allegations Trump made against him in the Oval Office just hours ago.
Donald Trump thought a cheap jab at Barack Obama's Harvard law degree would earn him laughs. Instead, it sparked a national reckoning. We've seen plenty of political theater, but this wasn't just another stray insult at a rally. This moment unfolded just days after the Trump administration had frozen more than $2 billion in federal funding to Harvard. Timing isn't subtle here. The insult wasn't random. It was a headline missile lobbed right into the heart of an escalating fight over education, power, and who gets to decide what counts as achievement in America.
We have no concern about that. If it's uncomfortable for him, he shouldn't have been involved in overseeing this, which is what it appears to us has happened. There's a lot of allegations on the table. Our job is to go and follow each of those trails and to find out the truth.
We're looking at two presidents facing off, but the stakes weren't limited to old campaign grudges. With the White House already under fire for its crusade against so-called radical universities, Trump picked his moment. In front of an audience primed for fireworks, he went after Obama's credentials, scoffing at his Harvard law degree and branding it overrated. He threw in his signature sarcasm, knowing the cameras were rolling. But when Obama stepped up, his answer was not a political comeback. It was a calm, direct defense of education itself, calling Trump's funding freeze unlawful and ham-handed. We can see in that instant the lines being drawn between defending academic independence and weaponizing the tools of government for personal grudges. The hypocrisy didn't need to be spelled out, but it was too blatant to ignore. Trump, who has built his public image around being the smartest man in the room, often talks up his time at the Wharton school. He's repeated, sometimes almost as a nervous tick, that he's a very intelligent person and went to the Ivy League. But there's a crack in that mirror. University records show Trump never made the dean's list, his name missing from the Wharton commencement program's honors, and his classmates recall a man more interested in weekend real estate deals than weekend study groups. Meanwhile, Obama, who did the opposite, worked his way to magna cum laude at Harvard, led the law review, and as a first-year summer associate was busy racking up credibility at Sidley and Austin while Trump was buying headlines. We can't miss the irony here. The man who once hid his own transcripts, even threatening legal action if his grades were released, is the one ridiculing someone who earned every academic line on their resume.
I've got more material. No. I don't want to spend too much time on the Donald.
When Trump delivered his punchline, the room played along. Laughter rippled through his crowd, eager for another swipe at the former president. For a few seconds, it looked like Trump had scored. But as Obama took the microphone with the composure he's famous for, the mood started to curdle. The first thing we notice is what Obama didn't do. No shouting, no retort, just a cool and measured response. He described the value of education as something hard-earned, not bought or bluffed. He said, "I worked hard for that degree. I didn't buy it. I didn't pretend to earn it. I studied." The effect was immediate. The laughter faded, replaced by a strange tension. It's the kind of moment where a crowd starts to realize it's on the wrong side of the punchline. This wasn't just two men trading personal slights. We've seen Trump try this playbook before, questioning Obama's birth certificate, then his college records, then calling for him to show his records again and again. It's not subtle. It's a years-long obsession with undermining credentials he could never match. Obama's calm deflection didn't just defend his own honor, it reframed the whole narrative. Suddenly, the question wasn't whether Harvard is overrated, but why the sitting president was attacking education itself.
Don't do that. I mean, look, they all have their smartphones, and they're texting with their friends. They're doing all the stuff that teenagers are doing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Michelle and I try to emphasize to them that they don't want to be on TMZ.
Yeah, right.
Insiders familiar with the Trump camp were quick to suggest that this jab wasn't just about Obama. The timing, they claimed, was meant to distract from a much larger and growing backlash over Trump's sudden freeze on Harvard's federal funding. The move had drawn immediate outrage from universities, legal scholars, and even some conservative donors who saw it as blatant political payback. Behind the scenes, White House advisors were reportedly anxious about the public blowback and the perception that the administration was turning education into a political weapon. In the room that night, we can feel the tension thickening. On one side, the former president stands as a symbol of academic achievement, defending the right to learn and teach freely. On the other, the current president attacks the very institution that produced leaders across both parties. It's not just a fight about who got better grades. It's a full-scale collision between two visions for America's future. One that sees universities as engines of progress, and one that sees them as political enemies.
Usually anyone associated with Obama just ignores all that. They don't respond. But that is not what happened this time. Obama's spokesperson responded in part, And I quote, "Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response, but these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at..."
But the insult didn't end there. It ignited something larger. Obama's calm words began to resonate beyond the walls of that convention hall. We can see students on social media, faculty groups, and even some traditionally right-leaning law partners sharing clips, suddenly energized not by a partisan clash, but by a rallying cry against the politics of intimidation. For days afterward, Harvard stood firm, refusing to comply with White House demands to change admissions and hiring. Obama praised them for rejecting an unlawful and ham-handed attempt to stifle academic freedom. We watched as other universities lined up in support, denouncing what they called a direct attack on American education. Meanwhile, the White House press team tried to spin the story, but the cracks were visible. Reporters kept digging into Trump's own academic record. His claims of Wharton brilliance were contradicted by classmates who remembered him as a solitary figure, more interested in his family's real estate empire than in lectures or case studies. Some recalled him as very focused, but not on schoolwork. According to university records and former associates, he was never on the dean's list and graduated without honors. That detail became a talking point in itself, a little snowball rolling downhill as more journalists uncovered the lengths Trump had gone to keep his own grades under wraps. Michael Cohen, Trump's former fixer, even testified to Congress that he was ordered to threaten Trump's alma maters and the College Board with legal action if they ever released his records.
People are speaking up. They're marching, they're stepping up, and where are you at, President Obama? And so now I think we see President Obama stepping up too. And so he's stepping up and saying something to the American public. He refuses to sit back and allow Donald Trump to accuse him of leading a coup. And remember, it wasn't just what he said, Trump said in the Oval Office, President Trump said. He also released a video on his social media network showing Barack Obama being arrested in the Oval Office and carried out in handcuffs. It was an AI-generated
video, right?
The more the administration tried to frame Obama as unworthy, the more glaring Trump's own contradictions became. It wasn't just about academic honors anymore. The very next day, news broke that Trump's Department of Justice had formed a new strike force to investigate what they called a treasonous conspiracy by the Obama administration. Another attempt to push public attention away from the Epstein scandal swirling around the White House. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard announced they would leave no stone unturned in their hunt for evidence that Obama and his staff had manufactured intelligence on Russian election interference. Senators Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn, both on the Judiciary Committee, issued statements demanding a special counsel to probe what they called an unprecedented and clear abuse of power. They framed it as a national crisis, but others saw a pattern. Democrats quickly called out the timing, with Senator Gary Peters warning that the administration was breeding conspiracy theories and misinformation in a desperate effort to distract from the unresolved questions about Jeffrey Epstein's connections and the administration's refusal to release documents. The pivot was so transparent, we didn't even need an industry source to spell it out. As Trump's base grew restless over the administration's handling of the Epstein case, every new accusation against Obama landed like a diversion tactic. Obama's team, usually silent, broke protocol to issue a rare statement. They called the charges outrageous and a weak attempt at distraction. By then, it was impossible not to notice the sequence. A funding freeze at Harvard, a public insult to Obama's degree, and then a barrage of legal threats aimed at his entire administration.
And Governor Pawlenty, Speaker Johnson is now saying that he would not be opposed to subpoenaing Obama to testify before Congress over the...
And in the echo chamber of conservative media, Trump's attacks only got louder. Social media accounts started circulating memes of Trump chasing Obama in a white Ford Bronco, a throwback to the O.J. Simpson chase. The message was clear, if not exactly subtle. The president even went so far as to publicly warn that immunity from prosecution probably helped Obama, hinting darkly that others in his circle might not be so lucky. Through it all, Obama refused to be drawn into a shouting match. Instead, he delivered his message to the crowd and the cameras. When you attack education, you're not just talking about me. You're talking about every kid who dreams of being the first in their family to graduate. That line landed harder than any insult. We saw the applause shift, this time not for political points, but for the principle at stake. But underneath the applause, insiders close to the Trump administration whispered that the crowd's mood had unsettled the president. Some said the moment he realized the laughter wasn't with him, but against him, was when real panic started to set in. The optics had flipped. The more Trump tried to score points, the more Obama's calm presence looked like leadership. And the more the room, and soon the country, started paying attention not to the volume of the insults, but to the substance behind them.
I have to say, though, those weren't that mean. I mean, look, I've got to tell you, you should see what the Senate says about me all the time. I mean, that was some piker.
Behind that, we saw the next front open up. Trump's White House didn't just target Obama. They expanded their attacks to law firms, stripping security clearances, ordering reviews of contracts, and accusing big law of weaponizing the judicial system. Obama, at a private fundraiser, took direct aim at firms that capitulated, saying some were setting aside the law to protect careers and kitchen rehabs in the Hamptons. The legal world was now caught in the crossfire, forced to pick sides between profit and principle. At the same time, the Justice Department's so-called strike force, led by Bondi and Gabbard, was busy declassifying reports. leaking fragments to suggest the Obama team had manufactured intelligence. But even the House Republican report didn't fully support the narrative. Intelligence officials, including John Ratcliffe and James Clapper, publicly rejected claims of fabrication, calling the attacks patently false. The back and forth only fueled more rumors, with industry sources warning that the declassification risked exposing sources and undermining alliances abroad. As the investigation ramped up, we could see the rift in real time. The White House escalated its public campaign, Gabbard staging a press conference to announce new evidence against the Obama administration, even as Democrats accused her of jeopardizing intelligence sources and international trust. Mark Warner, top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, condemned the leaks as reckless. Other intelligence veterans described the atmosphere as one of mounting anxiety, with some sources going dark and allies questioning whether sensitive information could ever be safe again.
We found this isn't like evidence this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious.
While Trump's inner circle pushed the story of a years-long coup, the details remained thin. Most of the supposed evidence came down to contested intelligence judgments, with accusations flying but no new indictments. The report included redacted lines about Russian efforts, but ultimately no proof that Obama or his officials had crossed legal lines. Still, the spectacle was enough. The headlines were filled, the echo chamber was roaring, and the message to the base was clear. Every enemy is fair game, and every institution is a potential threat. And when Trump realized the crowd was no longer laughing with him, but listening to Obama, that's when the real panic began. Even his closest advisors couldn't ignore the way the energy had turned. In that moment, the story of two presidents sparring over diplomas had become a full-blown national standoff, with universities, courts, and intelligence agencies caught in the crossfire. The public wasn't just watching a feud, they were witnessing a campaign to redefine who gets to hold power, whose records are honored, and whose voices get silenced. As the next wave of legal maneuvers and media counterattacks ramped up, we could see the battle lines hardening, the stakes escalating, and the consequences spreading far beyond one convention hall. Because if the past week had taught us anything, it was that
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election.
What began as a personal insult turned into open political warfare. We watched as Obama's defense of his Harvard credentials echoed across headlines, instantly reframing Trump's attack from a snide dig into a referendum on dignity itself. The media couldn't get enough. Overnight, unlawful and ham-handed trended, while Trump's own staff scrambled behind the scenes to steer the news cycle. By the next morning, Attorney General Pam Bondi had announced the formation of a new strike force inside the Department of Justice, laser-focused on digging up anything that could stick to Obama's legacy. Officially, it was about investigating intelligence manipulation, but anyone reading the political winds saw the timing for what it was. Payback with a government seal of approval. Obama's camp, never quick to bite at these kinds of setups, went on record to call the entire investigation outrageous and ridiculous. The framing was deliberate, a naked attempt at revenge after being outmaneuvered in public, more about headlines than any actual lawbreaking. But that didn't stop the noise. Suddenly, Tulsi Gabbard, wearing her new badge as Director of National Intelligence, stepped into the spotlight. She started declassifying sensitive Russia documents, dropping loaded phrases like treasonous conspiracy at press briefings. The effect was immediate. Cable news ran wild, and Gabbard, who, let's not forget, had been sidelined only months before over her own off-message stunts, was suddenly Trump's attack dog, dragging Obama back into the crosshairs. Here's where the contrast between the two men was impossible to ignore. While Trump and his crew shouted treason from every stage they could find, Obama kept teaching. At a private fundraiser, he didn't rant. He reminded the legal world of its duty to stand up to intimidation. If your core value is to teach, you may teach without compromising values of academic independence, he said. A line that landed like a direct rebuke to Trump's entire approach. The subtext was sharp. Where Trump tried to bully schools and firms into submission, Obama challenged them to defend their mission, echoing the calm pushback that had so thoroughly shut down the Harvard jab days earlier.
Just bracing for what was that big thing gonna be? How bad would it get?
But for all the talk of records and transparency, the elephant in the room was Trump's own school history. We all remember his campaign to show Obama's transcripts. The public taunting, the $5 million charity stunt, the endless social media posts. But then, as congressional testimony later confirmed, Trump himself had secretly ordered his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to threaten legal action if Fordham, Wharton, or even the College Board dared release his own grades. Letters were sent, phone calls made. If any records are released, we will hold your institution liable. Suddenly, the credibility of Trump's academic crusade was in pieces. What had started as a show of bravado now looked like pure desperation. A man terrified of being unmasked by the very standards he used to attack others.
And I think one of the things that we all have to work through is learning how to decode when that fear is going to help us and when it's holding us back. Because you come out here every night and you make it look easy, But I know that there is always a thing in people who are in the public eye where you have to get over that crest of fear and get out here and do your thing.
So this wasn't just about Harvard or who had the shinier diploma. We could see the larger pattern forming. Trump wasn't only freezing Harvard's funding, he was slashing research money for schools across the country, targeting big law firms, stripping security clearances, and labeling anyone who pushed back as an enemy of the people. Obama, by contrast, positioned education as America's backbone, urging universities to reject intimidation and keep faith in open inquiry. This spectacle had moved past personal rivalry. Observers across the political spectrum began to wonder if this fight wasn't about Obama's degree at all, but about Trump's fear of being outshined by someone who earned his power through merit, not inheritance or bravado. If mocking education is how power protects itself, then maybe Obama's silence that night didn't just shut Trump down. Maybe it exposed exactly what he's most afraid of. So what do you think? Was this just another political skirmish, or are we watching the foundations of truth and merit being pulled out from under us? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on power, privilege, and the games they play. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and never stop asking who really wins when the spotlight fades.